Hey everyone, welcome into the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Bobby Sylvester, joined as always by Mike Tagliere, and today we've got our Week 6 Start or Sit show, and today we're joined by Joe Pisapia. He's on Twitter at Joe Pisapia17. I'm at Bobby Fantasy Pro, and Mike is at Mike Tagliere NFL. Joe, by the way, is the author of the #1 selling Fantasy Black Book series and host of the Fantasy Black Book Pod. Joe, how's it going, man?
It's going great, man. I missed you guys. It's been I feel like 6 weeks. And I don't know, this is really nice to get together again. It's been too long, and it's nice to chat a little football with you too.
Absolutely. So, Tags and I tend to get right into the football. We don't really do the nonsense stuff. But, Joe, I figured with you coming on the show, we should have some fun. So before we get into our Week 6 Start or Sit, Tags and I are going to have a competition. Tags, how you doing, by the way, man?
I'm doing good, dude. It's Wednesday, so it's like hump day. Once you get over this day, everything kind of gets easier as the week goes on.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so here's what we're going to do, Tags. You ready for this?
We're
both going to share a true embarrassing story. And, Joe, you're going to be the judge of whose was worse.
Okay. All right. All right. I got off easy on this one. Okay.
So, Tags, I've talked long enough, and I'm going to put you on the spot. You need to come up with one right now that's going to beat mine. What do you have?
My embarrassing story I have, it's something my parents actually did to me twice, and it's really odd. So my parents, they both own businesses, right? And my dad, every day he'd go to work, and then there was a woman that he worked with that his daughter had basically lost a date to prom, and he wanted me to fill in because he felt bad for her daughter, yada yada. But basically, the one girl was pretty, the other girl not so much. She was like, I kid you not, she was like 6 feet tall, and I at the time, so as a freshman, I was 5'2". So when it came time for pictures before this dance, it was like a homecoming, something like that. I had to stand on the fireplace behind her in order to do the picture like you're supposed to do. And when I reached down to they're like, just put your arms down around by her hips. I went and put my arms over and I put my hand on her chest.
Oh, wow. And that was before the dance. Imagine what happened after.
Yeah, I'll never forget that, man. I was, like I said, I was 5'2" freshman year. I'm 6'2" now. So,
and she was a senior or a junior? What was her grade?
Yeah, she was a junior. So I'm guessing it was probably a homecoming.
I need all the information before I judge.
That is a ridiculous story, and I think that you made it up. But I don't need you. I mean, it doesn't matter if you cheat. I'm still going to beat you. Here's mine. So I was a goody two-shoes in high school. I mean, I guess I still am. I call it being an adult. Anyways, we were pulling up to a Legion baseball game in the summer of my senior year, and my friends started to ghost ride the whip in the van we were in. That's when you put the car in neutral, you blast the music all the way up, then you get out while it rolls down the street and you dance around the car and on top of it.
What is wrong with you?
I'm pretty sure it's called ghost riding because people die doing it. So anyways, I was not having this. I was sitting in the back seat, middle, feet on the hump. Then I leaped out of the car like a superhero, of course. Stopped the car before it crashed, and the coach comes running over yelling at us, thinking I was the driver. So we were all suspended from the game in the next game, and we had to run foul poles during warm-ups. That's when you go from one foul pole to the other. So I had to run like 2 miles. I forgot my socks, and there weren't long baseball pants back then. At least that's not what we wore. So I had to run 2 miles with my feet getting all blistered, and the worst part is, the girl I just started dating was there looking at me, seeing me look like a goon and getting yelled at. And then Jake Odorizzi, now the Minnesota Twins, stole her from me a week later.
Wow. These are tough. These are pretty good. I think on behalf of the audience of the show, I want to thank you guys for being so candid and sharing in terms of all of that. And I'm going to say this, taking them all into effect, they are both pretty embarrassing.
You're choosing a best friend here. I hope you know that.
I'm well aware of this. But I want to say they are both embarrassing. Both of them certainly have sad moments in them as well. The one thing, though, that I think you almost had in your favor, Bobby, that you could have turned is you were getting yelled at by the coach and having to run sprints and stuff. You could have been the bad boy, and you could have turned that into your favor. That was an opportunity. Whereas Tags, I think, immediately put himself in an uncomfortable situation.
Tags should be in jail right now. He should still be in jail. That girl was like 15 years old.
He grabbed a boob at the parents' house during pictures. Everybody knows you wait till after the dance if you're going to make that move, not before it and not in front of family. So I think that's like that. You're like a step below. There's something about Mary when the beans go above the Franks or whatever.
Oh,
like that's.
yeah.
I think you were like right there in terms of prom story. So
Tags is such a bad boy, man. Tags, you're bad.
He was a bad boy, like, oh my God, I'm in front of the parents. You were a bad boy. You could have turned and been like, yeah, see what happened there? I had to run all those sprints because I was
ghost riding the whip.
I was ghost riding a whip or whatever the hell. I don't know. It just sounds cool, man. I don't know. If I was a girl, I'd be like, yeah, I want to ghost ride with the whip and whatever you just said. But it was close, but I got to give it to Tags. Sorry.
All right. That's fair. How do you feel, Tags?
Best friends forever.
Good look, though. Yeah, BFFs, baby.
Guys, let's talk some football. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about a cool opportunity with FanDuel. FanDuel has more ways to win cash prizes and once-in-a-lifetime experiences during every single game, every single week. Never played FanDuel Fantasy Football before? Great, because new users get $20 in site credit if they deposit $20. This week, FanDuel is hosting a Fantasy Pros Beat the Experts contest. You might have heard this a couple weeks ago as well when I beat Tags in the Gardner Minshew contest and he had to wear a mustache in that live stream that we do at youtube.com/fantasypros. Anyways, this is where you can play against Tags and I for $2,500 in cash prizes, free FanDuel contest entries, and epic bragging rights. The contest is just $5 to enter with a first place prize of $500. And the 25 users with the highest scores who beat both Tags and I, if you guys can accomplish that, are going to get a free entry into next week's Sunday Million contest, where you can play for millions in cash prizes. If that's not enticing enough, then let's not forget that nearly half the playing field is going to double their money in this contest. And by the way, Tags and I are going to have a bet on this. We're going to talk about it tomorrow on the DFS show. Since Monday's National Dessert Day, it might have something to do with desserts and a sweet bet payoff. And we're going to have some roster restrictions as well, just like last time, so it should be easier to beat us than usual. If you want to get in on the fun, go to fanduel.com/tagsandbobby, all lowercase. Once again, that's fanduel.com/tagsandbobby. One word, all lowercase. Make your first deposit to get started, and you'll get an extra $5 in site credit every week for 4 weeks. Good luck, everyone. You're going to need it. And by the way, if you are a new user at FanDuel, it's perfect timing because we've got an offer going on right now at fantasypros.com/offers, where if you're a first-time depositor, all you need to do is submit $10 to FanDuel, and you're going to get our Hall of Fame premium package for 6 months. That's a $65 value, and again, it's only $10, and you can win money with that $10, so it's basically free. Again, that's fantasypros.com/offers for 6 months of unlimited access to all our premium offerings. All right, guys, so we'll get into the news as we're doing these player rankings, but what we like to do in these starter sit shows, if this is your first time listening, is we're going to go through the running back position, then wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, defense, special teams, and we're just going to go with players that aren't obvious starts or obvious sits and just talk about which ones we would prefer to start. Now, granted, it's always going to matter who you have on your team. If you've got Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, and Chris Carson, of course you're not going to start David Johnson this week or James Conner because they would be your fourth running back. But those guys are great starts this week, so it depends on your context. And if you have more questions, Tags and I always post our rankings. Joe, I'm sure you have your rankings somewhere as well.
Actually, no, I don't. We do the podcast, so all my thoughts are always divulged on the Black Book Show, and I'm on FST every day on Fantasy Sports Radio with Craig Mish, so we get into a lot of these kind of same things of the start sits, and we do the same thing on the TV show on Sunday, so you can always get my opinion, too, on the Twitter machine. So, I mean, between Tags, Bobby, and me, I mean, come on. Yeah, all questions get answered in life and in football.
Joe, have you ever been wrong, by the way, about one of these start sit questions?
All the time.
I was hoping that I had like some source now where I could go and get all the right answers.
Here's the thing. There's no such thing as all the right answers. Our job is not always to be right so much as always to give you the best information to make the right decision. And I think if you do that most of the time, I think you're going to probably hit it probably like an 80% rate. So, I mean, that's pretty damn good. But outside of that, again, our job as analysts is to arm you with the decision-making process to make good decisions. And I think most of the time the information bears that out. But then there's other times where it's football and, crazy things happen, for God's sake. So I think you always have to take that into account.
So, Tags, the way I've explained it before is that, the majority of the time, 65% of the time, the general public will make the right decision. A good analyst will help you make the right decision 70 to 75% of the time. Now, that's not huge, but that is definitely an edge over the rest of your league. And a lot of times that can be the difference between making the playoffs and finishing in last place, or, making the playoffs and winning your championship. So we are going to be wrong. I'm sorry about the times we have been wrong. Justice Hill comes to mind. But let's get right into this. And we'll start at the running back position. Melvin Gordon, what do we do with him this week? Tags, why don't you start us?
You play him. There's really no questions about it. He received 12 of the 15 carries that were available to the team. So even though they said they were going to ease him into action, I mean, that's not easing him in. He wasn't involved in the passing game as much as Austin Eckler when Phillip Rivers turned into Derek Carr for whatever reason. It was legitimately, I went back and found this out. So Phillip Rivers, his 4.4 yards per attempt that he averaged in that game was his worst since 2007. It was truly a bad game for him. And Austin Eckler fumbled towards the goal line. The ball went into the end zone, touchback. It's no longer their ball. It's the third time he's done that this year. Yes, one time was in the preseason, but this is Melvin Gordon's job. He's going to get the goal on the ball on the goal line. And they're almost a full touchdown favorite at home. There's not much more you could ask there. I have him ranked inside my top 15 this week.
Joe, would you agree with that? I mean, I've got Melvin Gordon as a must start, but we've been getting this question so many times that I figure we need to talk about it.
Well, you have to get it because it was the wackiness leading up to that week against the Dolphins, and then the Dolphins game itself where he was not there, and then going into this past week. So I think everyone's kind of just spinning around in circles if you're a Melvin Gordon owner. But I agree with Tags 100%. I think you have to start him because the upside's there, because even if Eckler is going to continue to be a part of this offense, they're playing Pittsburgh. And that means that Pittsburgh, down to their third-string quarterback, you have to be worried about how much they're going to be able to move the football at all. We'll see what happens. I feel like Devlin Hodges is the guy that gets created in Madden. The next year you do a dynasty and these like fake college players from fake schools come up. I feel like that's what we're dealing with right now. And I just think there's going to be so many opportunities for the Chargers, even though they don't have any home field advantage in that stadium. They are clear favorites in this one. And I think you have to roll Gordon out there and hope that this is the game. Because if it's not now, this is week 6. If it's not, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's got to be now, or he's got to be moved on to another team. I mean, you know what I mean? Esser get off the pot at this point.
So speaking of the Steelers, Tags, James Conner's been getting a lot of hate on Twitter with all these guys who own him saying, what's the deal with him? Is it ever going to happen? You still start him every week, right?
I mean, you're starting him, but it's a little worrisome. He hasn't topped 15 carries in his last 10 games. He has not topped 65 rushing yards in the last 10 games. This offense is probably not going to be in they're not going to be in scoring position too often. I mean, fortunately, he's going against the Chargers, a team that is just decimated by injuries, particularly their secondary, but Melvin Ingram had to miss last week. We don't know if he's going to play this week, but the Chargers, because of all these injuries, have allowed 4.89 yards per carry on the year. So, I mean, you play him, but you don't have high expectations. I have him ranked as like a low-end RB2, high-end RB3, just because the running back position is just ugly. I mean, Devonta Freeman is a guy that's not seeing more than 12 carries per game. You know what I mean? So it's just like you're chasing ghosts here, and it's rough. I mean, if you told me you wanted to start Adrian Peterson this week over James Conner, I wouldn't tell you that you were crazy.
Yeah. It's hard not to get frustrated right now, but I mean, the Steelers have just imploded. All the injuries, all the other talent that has left this roster. They were at a deficit to begin the year, and now you're in a spot where they're in a greater hole to pull themselves out of. I'm with Tags. You got to probably run Connor out there. And now with Samuels out for a while, too, I think that actually helps a little bit in terms of volume. Not a lot, but a little bit. Enough where you go, okay, well, anything that you were worried about with Samuels, maybe even a couple more targets out of the backfield, too, for him. And I think you'll have to rely on him heavily in this game if you have any kind of shot. But I think what you do is, because you have to start Connor, I think you should look in your flex spot for somebody with a little bit more upside. Maybe you take a little bit more risk with a little boomer bust. Somebody's got, like the Will Fuller type of player who might go off, but he might be a zero.
Like Ronald Jones?
Yeah, well, the Ronald Jones is very frustrating because up until last week, you throw out that one Thursday night game where he got hurt. He had been basically an average of somewhere around 15 and 75 every week. Now, the touchdowns weren't always there. He had the one touchdown, but still, it was kind of trending in a good direction. And then after last week, his disappointment.
Yeah, but it was the Saints last week. I mean, what did we expect?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't expect the same out of the Rams, and he had that game too. I just, I guess it's more of a commitment thing, but I would imagine he gets back to it this week.
I think there's a chance Jones does have a big game. Now I've got him outside my top 30. I agree. I'd rather start Adrian Peterson than him, Tags, who's a pretty decent start. I've got him at number 26. I want to talk about this Arizona backfield, though, because David Johnson is banged up, and if he's out, Chase Edmonds becomes a must start. Is that right, Tags?
Oh, yeah. A team that, is running, upper 60s in terms of plays per game and using them in the passing game, knowing that they're shorthanded at wide receiver. Edmonds would become like a high floor RB2 option for me.
Yeah, huge win in DFS this week if Edmonds should be the guy, because you're talking about a huge value. And ownership might be very high, but the matchup is so good. And even just looking what he did last week with a decent matchup, 8 for 68 and then 3 catches for 18. But you add in the element of the Atlanta Falcons, who think that they're playing flag football and trying in the secondary to pull a flag from somebody instead of actually tackle them. I mean, it is going to be open season for a guy like Edmonds. That game to me everyone's going to be on the total of the Chiefs game with the Texans, and I understand there's a ton of star power, but I think this Falcons-Cardinals game could actually outscore it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, let's go 3 options here. I'm going to give you 3 running backs. You tell me which one you like the most, which one you like the least. Devonta Freeman, you already brought him up at Arizona. Pretty tough matchup. Even though Arizona's given up a lot of points, it hasn't been so much on the ground. LeSean McCoy, last week, did he even get any carries? He goes up against Houston, and then we'll go with James White Thursday night at home against the Giants. Tags you first.
James White's the best one. McCoy's the worst. Yeah, like, I mean, it's so weird with the Patriots, right? You like look at the team and you're like, what is going to happen? It's going to be a massacre on Thursday night. But I mean, they've been going out and like simply pounding teams into oblivion. And the last 2 weeks haven't been like the greatest offensive days for them. So I think they want to get like some of that confidence back. They are at home. White has seen 19 targets over the last 2 weeks with Burkhead kind of like a non-factor. So you have to treat him like someone like a slot wide receiver that gets a couple carries. And I mean, knowing that James Devlin's out, they may decide to throw on the goal line a little bit more. And James White does have a lot of chemistry with Tom Brady. I have him as my number 19 running back this week.
He's on pace for 88 receptions this year. Like his low is 12 fantasy points this season.
He's got 19 targets over the last 2 weeks. How could you not want to start White out of this group?
Yeah, I've got him in my top 20 this week. And a lot of people are disappointed about White because he hasn't been the same as last year. He's not really getting any carries, but he's still an RB2, isn't he?
Well, it's hard to get carries when you miss a week because of the birth of your kid, and then you come back and you were kind of out of practice for a couple weeks, and that kind of showed in the following game. So, I don't know. I think this has just been an overreaction because he missed that game in, was it week 3, and then they came back against Buffalo, and Buffalo is a really good defensive team. So, I mean, they struggled across the board in that game, as I and many of us anticipated them doing, because Buffalo's for real. That D is absolutely for real, and Buffalo's probably going to be a playoff team when all is said and done. But you look at the rest of the schedule coming up. They got the Giants, the Jets, Cleveland, Baltimore before their bye. I mean, there's a lot of good James White days left to come, so you can get him in a trade. Go get him now.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that. He's one of the best buy lows in the league right now. Now, Joe, do you agree that LeSean McCoy is the worst of that group?
He is, and it's, it's frustrating because, it's almost like a contest between him and Freeman, but at least Devonta Freeman so far has continued to see a lot of action in the passing game. So you have to kind of reconfigure your brain and say, okay, what are my expectations from him as a rusher? Forget that. What's my expectations for him in all-purpose yards? Is he getting you 80-something all-purpose yards? And if he is, that's fine. That'll do. And if he's throwing in 4 or 5 catches in there as a point of that total in that all-purpose yardage, then you're okay with that too. I mean, the Falcons are in trouble right now. And I mean, Dan Quinn is not long for that job. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a team kind of playing for their life. But Freeman right now, it just looks like kind of a different version of Freeman, the way they're using him in the offense, and their just lack of commitment to run the football at all.
All right, guys, let's go with the next group of 3. I want to throw in Adrian Peterson's name at Miami. Matt Breida, who's kind of split in the backfield, but he looked great last week. He's going into Los Angeles to take on the Rams, and then we'll go Carlos Hyde. Good matchup against Kansas City, bad game script. So Peterson, Breida, Hyde. Joe, you're first this time.
This is tough, man, because I think you can make a case for all of them. I think this is much harder than the last group. I'll tell you what, I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say Breida. Just because Breida's been very good at making the most of what he's been given so far. He's breaking off those big runs. I know with Kyle Juszczyk out, that's a concern for some people, but I just think if San Francisco is going to go in there and beat the Rams, I think the most important thing they can do is commit to the run. Commit to the run. Don't let Jimmy G make mistakes. Play defense. Continue to do what's working for you. And I think that's working for them. I think Hyde's just a little limited in terms of his upside. And AP, on paper, it looks good, but I don't know, man. This year, everything on paper seems to kick me in the ass. So I'm just going to kind of stay away from it. I honestly, I get it because the Dolphins are that bad. This is a must-lose game for the Dolphins, by the way. A must-lose game because you don't want to have that one win. Well, you don't have that one win be against the Redskins, especially a team that might, in theory, have their quarterback of the future. And then you got to worry about, are they going to trade out of the number 1 spot? And then some other team's going to go ahead of you and take Tua. This is a must lose. Everybody on board, or should I say off board, lose this game if you're the Dolphins. So
I always found that to be like a weird conversation. Like, how do you have that conversation with your players and say, hey guys,
You can't have it with your players, but you have to know as an organization,
But that's what I'm saying is how do you relay that message and say, to make sure we lose this game? You know what I mean? I don't know.
I don't think you can communicate that. I just think you have to know deep down that this one in particular, this is the most winnable game and therefore the most dangerous, because this is also a team that could be ahead of you potentially when all said and done in that draft.
I'm going to go with Matt Breida as well. He's gotten in between 11 and 15 carries in each game, so it seems like no matter what is happening, no matter who's getting carries, he's locked in at 11 to 15 range. He doesn't have the most upside because of that, so he's a bit limited in upside. But Carlos Hyde, let's not pretend that he has massive upside or anything. He's actually on pace right now for 234 carries and 22 targets. That is basically Lamar Miller in this offense. Lamar Miller last year had 210 carries, 35 targets, so he was involved a little bit more in the passing game. So Hyde is essentially, he's going to need to score a touchdown most of the time, and Kansas City's kind of the perfect team to do that against. They have really, really struggled against the run, as they did last year. So I do like Hyde as well. I mean, Peterson,
he's got no ceiling. I mean, his cap this season has been 12 PPR fantasy points. That's not good. I've got him number 3 on this list as a result, even with the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Peterson doesn't get many receptions either, but Bill Callahan saying that they're going...
Also hasn't faced the Dolphins yet. I mean, you put him up against the Dolphins, he's going to be fine.
They did play the Giants.
That's true.
That didn't go very well. I mean, I know the Dolphins are, they're the real version of Miller, not Miller Lite. So... I like all these running backs. I think they're all fine plays. I actually have all of them as like a low-end RB2, high-end RB3 this week, that I would play all 3 of those guys over someone like Devonta Freeman.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've got Freeman a little bit lower than those guys as well. Peterson is a little bit riskier. Hyde doesn't have the upside. I think Breida's safe. Andy has the upside, so he's my number 1 of the group. Let's get 3 more here in the top 30, and then we'll move on and get some deeper plays for people who are desperate. Let's go with Jordan Howard, who has been the clear number 1 for Philly the last 2 weeks. Going into Minnesota, though. Royce Freeman, it looks like he's running number 2 behind Phillip Lindsay. Phillip Lindsay looks good, by the way. They're playing at home against Tennessee, and then Ronald Jones faced Carolina. So Howard, Royce Freeman, Ronald Jones. Joe, you're first again.
This is a tough one. I think for me, because Lindsay's been so good the last 2 weeks, that kind of pulls me off. Tennessee's a good defensive team, but still, even though Freeman has a role in the offense, I don't think he's my favorite of this bunch. I think I'm actually, and I hate myself for saying this, deep down, I hate myself, but I think I'm going to go Jordan Howard. I mean, he's got 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. I think they're trending in a direction where they're starting to get a little bit more of an offensive identity, which they did not have the first 2 weeks of the season for sure, and I think they're starting to find that a little bit, and it's starting to result in W's. And whenever a team starts winning games and guys start touching the football, that tends to be a trend that holds. Kind of like the same thing, like if you look at the Aaron Rodgers line and the fact that he has only 1 loss this year with the Packers, and it's the 1 game where he threw for over 240 yards. So what does that tell you? That tells you what the identity of Packers is, which is run the football, make plays, and play defense. And I just feel like Howard is, despite the tough matchup, the right call here.
I'm going to go with Ronald Jones.
I want to, but I just couldn't do it, Mike. I couldn't do it.
No, the floor might be a little bit lower than someone like Jordan Howard, but I mean, let's not pretend that it's not possible that the Vikings jump out to an early lead against that terrible Philadelphia secondary, and like they're up 14-0, and all of a sudden you're going to see Jordan Howard, his role be minimized in a way.
None of these are great plays. They all have question marks, but yeah, Jordan Howard's might be the biggest question mark.
Yeah, Minnesota, they've only allowed 2 top 35 running back performances through 5 games, so it hasn't been a great matchup regardless. Like, I have both Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders outside my top 30. I don't like either of them. Last week, I actually preferred Jordan Howard. This week, I would say Sanders is higher in my rankings. But Ronald Jones, like, none of these guys come with a very, very stable floor, but I'm going to take the one with the upside that has 15-plus touch potential, no matter the game script, and that's Ronald Jones.
I got Royce Freeman there. I think Royce Freeman is going to get touches regardless on the ground and through the air, where Denver's been using him a little bit lately. I've got him a little bit higher than Ronald Jones, quite a bit higher than Jordan Howard. I've got him 34. I've got Miles Sanders 39. Don't love either of them this week. In fact, I'd rather play Duke Johnson at Kansas City. The game script's going to be perfect for a Duke Johnson game. Tevin Coleman, it looks like he's 50-50 with Matt Breida. We like Matt Breida. Tevin Coleman, it might be just as good. And then Kenyan Drake playing against Washington. I usually wouldn't play Kenyan Drake. This week I've got him in my top 30, though, because of the matchup.
I like Drake better than all the options we just talked about, by the way.
Me too.
Yeah, 3 for 3 on that one, too. Let's hope. This is a good week to trade for Kenyan Drake, by the way.
His touch count over the last 3 games has been 11, 15, 12, and they're playing against Washington, a team that they're going to be able to rack up some more touches. Like, Miami's really struggled in terms of their plays per game, but both teams are going to nobody's going to control the clock in this one. I don't think either of them are good enough to do it. So I do like him, and they also benched Kalen Ballage 2 weeks ago. So
he's pretty much disappeared. He went from playing 45% of the snaps to 15% the last couple of weeks. So
yep, he's done.
Yeah, it's all Kenyan Drake.
Good. Bye, Felicia. Bye.
Yep.
So sick of that Kalen Ballage nonsense all freaking August. I had to listen to that nonsense.
Yep.
Any other running backs outside the top 30 that either of you guys like this week? I've been getting a lot of questions about Jonathan Hillman. He's a must sit, right?
Yeah, you're not playing anybody. You're not playing a third string running back against the Patriots.
That's kind of desperation.
Yeah, so yeah, it really is desperation. If you're desperate, though, who would you rather pick up?
That's true. And that's the truth of the matter. I mean, I'm sure Hillman has been picked up in most leagues. I have Hillman as my 39th running back, so it's not like he's like the worst thing of all time. Like, I would play him over someone like Justice Hill or Latavius Murray. Yeah. I mean, looking at all the options they're missing, maybe I'm too low just because I'm not I'm not someone who sits down and goes like, my rankings aren't done by my projections. They're done by the way that I would suggest like someone start or sit that player. So Hillman, if you do projections, I mean, he's probably going to come in as a top 30 running back because he's probably going to wind up with like at least 12 touches in this game. And that's typically like going to get you into that top 30 conversation, but they're just ugly touches is all.
Yeah, I'm two guys. It's not going to, speaking of ugly, I mean, Rashad Penny might be an ugly start, but possibly some love there against Cleveland because I think when you watch the footage from that Monday night game, it's hard not to go, well, let's just run the ball down their throat. I mean, I'm not saying you could carry an exact game plan over, but my goodness, why wouldn't you try at least to be pretty productive there? We mentioned Kenyan Drake, who's outside that top 30. But I hate to say it too, but maybe even Payton Barber too, because he had been getting those touchdowns. And I think even though Ronald Jones is the guy that seems to be more of the workhorse, the guy that seems to get the touchdown upside is Payton Barber. So if you're playing a standard league, I think that's a guy outside the 30 that as a flex this week on buys, I think you could throw in there.
I've got a few more running backs that I like a little bit more than Payton Barber. I agree with you. Payton Barber's in my top 40 this week. He's not a bad play. I already mentioned Duke Johnson. I already mentioned Kenyan Drake.
Gus Edwards.
Yes, Gus Bus. That's who I was going to bring up. Gus Bus at home against Cincinnati. Mark Ingram is the lock of the week in DFS, but Gus Bus, he's going to get some work in the second half as well. I like him. I like Chris Thompson at Miami. And then the other one I want to mention, Ito Smith. I don't love him this week at Arizona. I think they're going to pass the ball a little bit more. They've been using him more in passing downs than they have Devonta Freeman. 6 receptions last week, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Ito Smith, I have at number 32. So, yeah.
Do you? All right. Mm-hmm. Joe, do you have anything to say about either of those names or want to throw in one more?
No, I think you guys said it right there. I think we've given the people enough there. I think we're good. Don't want to give them too much. Then they expect a lot of you.
All right, guys, we're going to move on over to the wide receiver position. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about ExpressVPN. Do you want to be able to watch every single NFL game this season, no matter where you live or what team you root for? This season, there's a proven way to watch every football game live for a fraction of the price of DIRECTV or NFL Sunday Ticket. It's ExpressVPN. And here's how it works, okay? Use ExpressVPN to buy the International Game Pass. ExpressVPN lets you spoof your location so you can buy the International Game Pass for just $125 and stream all the games. I live around St. Louis, but I root for the Jacksonville Jaguars and stream all their games. ExpressVPN comes with apps for computers, mobile and digital media players like Fire TV. Plus, you can use ExpressVPN every time you go online to keep all your network data encrypted, secure, and safe from hackers. ExpressVPN is the fastest VPN I've ever tried, and it costs less than $7 per month and comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Enjoy all 256 games of the 2019 NFL season with the world's most trusted VPN, ExpressVPN. Protect your online activity today and find out how you can get 3 months free at expressvpn.com/fantasypros. That's expressvpn.com/fantasypros for 3 months free with a 1-year package. Visit expressvpn.com/fantasypros to learn more. All right, guys, wide receiver. I think at this point we can graduate DJ Chark and Terry McLaurin from we have to ask questions about them. They're always starts, regardless of the matchup. Doesn't matter. Would you agree with that, Tags? Marquise Brown, too?
I mean, McLaurin and Chark are definitely in a tier of their own. As for Marquise Brown, it depends, man. He had to leave the game last week. I don't know. It was a lower leg injury is what they called it. I don't know what that means.
Foot injury is what I'm seeing.
That was my concern, is that it was his foot.
It's like worst case scenario, isn't it? I guess worst case scenario is like his leg falls off, but foot injury is pretty bad.
That was a tremendous drop off from one to the other, wasn't it?
Is he a must start, Tags? He doesn't have a leg. Oh man, Cincinnati is like a terrible defense, but they haven't allowed a whole lot like massive wide receiver performances against them. Like no wide receiver has topped 89 yards against them.
Well, yeah, because you can run the ball 50 times for 5,000 yards.
That's part of it.
That's exactly the point. So
all three of those guys we just mentioned, by the way, I've got them over Juju Smith-Schuster this week.
You do,
which just sounds crazy to me.
Wow, that does sound crazy to me too.
Yeah, I don't think I could get there. I think, yeah, and I understand the mindset. I totally do.
Third string quarterback, really? Juju hasn't done anything, really.
No, well, look, it's...
He had 14 fantasy points one game.
I think you just got to keep rolling him out there for better or worse. You're kind of screwed because of what you...
I'm starting him too. I like all three of those guys this week. DJ Chark faced New Orleans.
Well, DJ Chark, I think at this point we all have to... that's of all the regrets. I don't have that many, but I have one in particular, which is in a lot of leagues, DJ was on the waiver wire week 1, and like a lot of people, I just didn't buy in. So it cost me 3 times as much the following week to pick him up, and I didn't get him everywhere I wanted to. And it was funny because I feel like collectively in all the leagues, everyone just looked at it and went, well, that's a 1-week wonder. That's never going to come back. And then it just hasn't gone away. And look at him, like, points-wise, he's been a beast.
He looks phenomenal, too. He looks so good. And Terry McLaurin at Miami. So let's move on to the guys that are actually questionable starts. If Tyreek Hill plays, you play him. If Devontae Adams plays, you play him. Alshon Jeffrey at Minnesota. Let's also throw in Cortland Sutton, faced Tennessee. And then Michael Gallup at the New York Giants. So Alshon, Cortland Sutton, and Michael Gallup. By the way, for those of you who are listening, we use something called TriCast to record our podcast. And when you sign into the room, you can select your name. Joe actually made his name today, Cortland Sutton. Joe, I don't know why you did that, but I'm assuming because of that, you're picking Cortland Sutton?
well, yeah. Well, look, I'd like to. I think Gallup has the best matchup on paper. But I think that, sometimes that always, like I said, comes back to bite us a little bit. Cortland Sutton's one of these guys that I know a lot of people were not feeling it because it was Joe Flacco, and that's fair. And also, like, you look at the way things kind of work out there with how committed they are to running the football. But it's working. It's working for them a little bit right now, and I think that it's working for Cortland Sutton, too. He's making the most of what he's getting. So in terms of upside, I think it's Sutton. But in terms of floor, I think it's Gallup. But I'm going to take the upside with Sutton.
Tags, I've got them Sutton, Gallup, Jeffrey as well.
I have Gallup, Sutton, and Jeffrey like way down. I have Jeffrey at 37 among wide receivers this week. I am low on Jeffrey at Minnesota. Like, going into Minnesota is really tough. And Jeffrey, like, against Xavier Rhodes. So Rhodes is, like, getting older, and he's a little bit clunkier in his movements. But Alshon Jeffrey's also had done that same path. And, like, so Xavier Rhodes is someone that you kind of have to beat with finesse. Like, he will get beat by Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper, guys like that. But Alshon's not that guy. He's a guy that's going to try and outmuscle you. And Rhodes is a pretty big dude. I don't like that matchup for him. Gallup, I mean, you kind of have to like Gallup. In the games that he's played, he's the number 7 wide receiver in football. And
he gets the Jets this week.
See, that worries me just slightly because I think our concept of, oh my God, he gets the Jets this week, but what's that game script going to be? You know what I mean?
Well, Ezekiel, it's going to run the ball like 30 times this game.
Right. And you know what? They need to do that. No offense to all the receivers, but you know what? It's great that Amari Cooper is getting all this love and all this stuff, but you know what? I see L. So let's get back to what we do best if we're the Cowboys, which is run Ezekiel Elliott, like you just said, 30 times and play some defense and get a W here and get a little bit more physically tough, because I think that's what's lacking right now from Dallas. Like, they've gotten a little bit more finesse, and look, it might work against lesser teams, like when you face the Giants week 1 against Eli Manning, and when you're facing the Dolphins, everything looks great. Then all of a sudden Dak Prescott looks like Patrick Mahomes, but all of a sudden when you start putting him against some other defenses, that's not the case. So get back to basics here, and I think that's Ezekiel Elliott.
I think what it really comes down to is Tyron Smith has been out with the ankle. Now he's back, and that'll be a fix-all. All right, guys, next 3. Golden Tate at New England Thursday night. Curtis Samuel at Tampa Bay. And let's throw in Marquez Valdes-Scantling Monday Night Football at home against Detroit. So it's Golden Tate, Curtis Samuel, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Joe, you're first.
Oh, I'm going to say Samuel because of the matchup. I mean, Tate is going to be the only guy on the field for the Giants, for God's sakes. Like, him and Daniel Jones are going to hold hands and go out there and get their butt kicked in New England this week.
Doesn't that make you think the Patriots are going to do everything they can to crush Golden Tate, though?
Well, you would think, because what else do you have to guard against? Look, they've been crushing everything right now, so the fact that you're going in there so undermanned is not a good look. It's just not.
0 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, by the way.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's just people were asleep and didn't realize how good this defense was in the playoffs last year. I think it kind of flew by people.
Are you a Patriots fan?
I am. I have lost Super Bowls before I won them though, so I'm not a bandwagon Patriots fan. I still got my Drew Bledsoe jersey in the closet. I got my Curtis Martin bobblehead. I got all that. So I go way back.
I thought you were going to say that you lost friends from being a Patriots fan.
Well, I probably lost friends too, but who cares? I've got all those rings that keep me warm at night. Who needs friends? MVS is going to have Darius Slayton on him, so I don't love this matchup, honestly. So to me, I'm going to go with Samuel. I'm going to take the Tampa matchup and hope for a touchdown here.
Tags, I'm going Samuel too. Who are you taking?
I am not going to go Samuel here. I'm going to go, man, so if you're looking for a floor, it's Tate. If you're looking for somewhat of a decent floor with a higher ceiling, I'd go Valdes-Scantling. He would actually benefit if Devontae Adams comes back because Adams would 100% be shadowed by Darius Slay. But even if Adams is out, I don't think they're going to use Slay to shadow Valdes-Scantling. And the side of the field that he plays on more often is that of Rashawn Melvin. Melvin has been really, he's been good. He's allowed under a 50% catch rate, but when he does allow catches, they go for a lot of yards. 16.9 yards per reception. That ranks 5th most among cornerbacks who have seen at least 20 targets in coverage. So Valdes-Scantling's speed, I didn't like the matchup against the zone coverage that Dallas ran last week, but I think he can get by Melvin on this. It's a really man-heavy defense under Patricia. So I would say Valdes-Scantling should be a good bounce back candidate, but I have him and Tate right next to each other.
Yeah, see, I love MVS. I just worry about their commitment also of just what this offense is right now. And Detroit, for all of their shortcomings, the one thing you can say about the Lions is they compete. That team goes out there. They might not have the personnel, but they compete, and they compete for 4 quarters. And this should be a hell of a football game. I'm looking forward to this one.
So everyone thinks Aaron Rodgers sucks and everything, but when you look at what
I don't think he sucks. I just think that I just think that this is the evolution of the next version. It's like Pedro Martinez didn't suck when he became a Met. He was a different version of Pedro Martinez. He still won games. It's just different. That's all.
I mean, I understand that, but what I'm saying is Aaron Rodgers has a 3.3% touchdown rate. He's actually on pace for more yards than he has averaged throughout his career. His completion rate is still solid. Aaron Rodgers is playing good football. He just hasn't got the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, he's playing good football, but I think everyone still thinks of him as a great fantasy asset, and then you just have to requisite the two between your mind. I think that's the thing that people need to come back to earth and understand now. It's not a negative. It's just realistic at this point. That's all.
What I'm trying to say is the touchdowns are coming. I don't think he's a top 4 or 5 fantasy quarterback.
What you're trying to say is you love Aaron Rodgers and you love cheese. That's what you're trying to say. I love cheese. Say it. I love cheese and I love Aaron Rodgers. What do you love more, Aaron Rodgers or cheese?
Well, I like them both a lot, man. Cheese belongs on pizza, though, so I'm taking cheese.
See, it's a tough question. I love cheese way more than Aaron Rodgers.
All right, guys, let's keep moving. Next 3 wide receivers. This one, Mike Williams, has been kind of a disappointment. DK Metcalf at Cleveland, and we'll throw in Demarcus Robinson face Houston. Tags your first this time. Mike Williams, DK Metcalf, Demarcus Robinson.
Can I choose none of the above?
No.
Yeah, these guys are all in the wide receiver 4 range for me. Flex, okay, but I don't feel great about it.
I'll go if you want more time. If you want to stall, Tags, I'll go.
I would rather play Preston Williams over all of them.
Dang. Okay, and you can pick up Preston Williams in a lot of leagues. What about Dede Westbrook? Would you rather have Dede Westbrook than all 3?
Oh, Dede Westbrook, 100%. I have Dede Westbrook as a top 30 play this week.
You're not really playing the game, though, are you, Mike?
I'm not, because Bobby's giving me options I don't want to play. I have them as sits.
It's not the game. It's not the game.
No, this is good. This is good information, Tags. This is what people want to hear is if you've got one of those guys, yeah.
I'm breaking your chops, but still, play the game.
No, Mike Williams, he's going to be matched up with Joe Hayden this week. That's not a good matchup for wide receivers. He shuts down legitimate number 1s, and Mike Williams hasn't shown the ability to do that just yet.
And he's playing banged up. He's got injuries to his ankle and his knee, right?
Yeah. He took a hard fall. I thought he was going to stay down last week. But he actually got up after a while and came back, and he saw a career high 13 targets. But Rivers was intercepted twice last week, and they were both on targets to Williams. Keenan Allen's gonna destroy this week. But Dede Westbrook's a really good play with DJ Chark being matched up with Marshawn Lattimore. That's a tougher matchup. So I mean, he's still gonna get targeted, Chark. But Dede Westbrook against PJ Williams is one of the best matchups you can ask for Dede Westbrook or any slot receiver.
I'm playing him in cash games in DFS, man. I love Dede this week. Did you know Dede Westbrook has more targets this year than Tyler Lockett and Juju Smith-Schuster?
It doesn't surprise me about Lockett. There's been 3 games where Lockett's had 4 or fewer targets.
Mike, I know you're great at this. I got a question. Is Hayden playing on Williams a lock the entire game? Is he?
Yeah, because Hayden does not travel into the slot, so therefore Keenan Allen.
So he's not going to be on Allen at all. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm going to take my shot here with Williams. because I think it's just a long day for Pittsburgh. I think this is going to be one of those long days, and I think whenever you have that, eventually it just wears down in defense, and I think the Steelers' defense is going to get worn down because they're going to be on the field too much. And I think that's an opportunity where eventually you'll get some scrap points there from Mike Williams, maybe in the second half of this football game. Might be a quiet first half, but I'll take the touchdown upside of Mike Williams.
Yeah, he would have been my pick, by the way. Of those choices, I would have went with Mike Williams. Of them, I'm just stating other guys that are probably available in some leagues that you can,
I understand. Everybody knows that you're the best, Mike. Don't worry about it.
What do we do with Demarcus Robinson and Hardman? I mean, Robinson hasn't gone over 44 yards since the week 2.
I want to know where those Sammy Watkins truthers went to.
No, don't start.
Oh, all those the week 1 Sammy Watkins truthers, man, were they out in force. I haven't seen any of them lately. It's been like a month.
I don't ever take victory laps over the first few games. That's stupid.
But like, how about first few? How about first game? Like, people were victory lapping.
That's even worse.
Oh, and I was just like, guys, it's 1 week. Let's calm down. Let's see if he matches that the rest of the month. Did he?
Can we start taking victory laps now? Like, we're through 5 weeks. When can we do it, Joe?
No, so we can't. No, Sigmund Bloom asked me. I went on Sig's show last week, and he asked me, he goes, tell me, let's talk about some people that you made some great calls on and some that you made some not so good.
I'll take a victory lap on Godwin.
And I was like, no, I'm not willing. I was like, I'm not willing to do that. Like, because like we have to sit back and analyze where things went wrong. And
you have to give us one victory lap. Who were you right on?
I'm not giving any victory laps. I will say that I missed on Anthony Miller, and that sucks.
Dude, don't be humble. You won the embarrassing story competition, dude.
Yeah, you got all this clout.
I'll take a victory lap.
Yeah.
I said Terry McLaurin's going to be the best rookie wide receiver. Eat it, Tags.
You did.
I'll take a victory lap on Cooper Kupp and Godwin because I have either one or both of them on every single team. And it's been a good run, let me tell you. And nobody wanted Cooper Kupp. All this narrative about the knee and he's never going to play and all this stuff. And I was like, whatever, dude. Just give me all the Cooper Kupp shares.
Whatever, dude.
That was me for a long time on Cooper Kupp until right up to my draft. And then somebody came on our show. I don't remember who it was.
Probably me.
Yeah, it might have been you. It might have been Jared Smola. I can't remember. It was one of you two. And they talked me into Cooper Kupp, and I was like, oh man, this is definitely right. And so I totally changed my rankings. I got him in all my leagues, and he is destroying. I love it.
Well, look, Mike's right. You don't want to take complete victory laps. Like all the people on the Fournette side right now that are loving life, who are like, Fournette's going to be great. He has been great. I was definitely wrong, and I was wrong for the right reason, which I was still.
Well, you were wrong for 5 weeks until he gets hurt in week 6 and he's out for the season.
Oh, stop, Bobby! Don't wish that upon anybody.
I'm not wishing. I'm not wishing that, dude. Get out of here.
Oh my God, I love this room. I missed this, boys. This was fun.
It's usually not like this until you come on here.
I know, but I bring the best and worst out of people. That's why everyone likes to have me on. But this is, like you said, like, you're on, so we're going to do nonsense. That was literally the top of the show. Literally the top of the podcast today was Joe's on, let's do something stupid. There you go. Welcome, everybody. But no, I think that, the thing going back to Fournette is it's all about cost. It's all like same reason like Damian Williams scared the hell out of me because it was the cost. And look, right now I'm right about Damian Williams and I'm wrong about Fournette. Let's see what happens as the season goes on because Mike's right. We are a third of the way through basically. And there's things I think we can take away and say that we probably feel really good about Kupp and Godwin and guys like that. But I'm pissed that I didn't listen to Bob Harris who kept telling me Allen Robinson. And I have 0 shares and I hate it because I could have had a ton of them. And I just passed because I was just worried about what that offense was going to be. But clearly they refused to commit to the run for whatever reason. I don't know, but it's pissing me off. Mike, you're a Bears guy. Can you give me some clarity here?
Oh, Allen Robinson's really good at football.
Yeah, what about the running backs? Can we get some defense and running backs? I know it's not sexy for Matt Nagy's resume, but can we just win some football games with some running?
I can't. I don't want to talk about the Bears. They're on their bye week. I don't have to talk about them this week.
Who did they lose to last week, Tags?
Don't start, Bobby. Do not start with me right now.
Oh, man, that was a bad loss. That was bad. Okay, so Tags already went a little bit deeper and talked about Preston Williams and Dede Westbrook. I love those plays if you're going a little bit deeper. Joe, do you have anyone outside the top 40 that you feel good about this week?
Let's see. Outside the top 40, I actually don't feel that bad about Auden Tate again because I don't think Baltimore defensively is a very good football team. I just don't. I know in the Fantasy Pros rankings, he's actually ahead right now of Preston Williams. Not in Mike's world, I'm sure, but still, I think that's a guy that you can throw out there. And the rest of it's a little tough. I'll tell you, the one guy, too, if you really want to dart throw in a deeper league, is we talked about Golden Tate before, but Darius Slayton has been that one guy that has had a really good rapport with Daniel Jones. And unfortunately, in the New York area here stuck, I have to watch a lot of Giant games. So I do see a lot of that. And especially when it comes to touchdowns and things like that. So he's had some opportunities, and obviously there's going to be targets galore available. I don't know how much he's going to make of them, but I think the opportunity there, and you're in a 14-team league with buys and troubles, and you want to pick a guy off the waiver wire, I think Slayton could be a plug and play, and maybe, just maybe, you get lucky and you get, 10 points out of him, and that's good enough.
I've been impressed with him watching him on tape. I was actually going to say Darius Slayton. I'll throw out Devontae Parker's name as well. He's got the same weighted opportunity as Preston Williams. Not quite as much since Josh Rosen took over, but I think Parker's still a good play. Huge ADOT for Devontae Parker this year. I mentioned Deante Johnson. He goes up against the Chargers this week. And Tags, I want to pick your brain on this one. Kiki Cutie. He had a pretty decent week last week, and he gets Kansas City in that game script in week 6.
Yeah, it's a really weird. It's gonna be crappy to try and project the Texans wide receivers every single week, just because it's like there's so many options there, and you talked about it being a potential Duke Johnson game. This all comes back to Patrick Mahomes, and if Mahomes can put up points on the board, it's going to be a more appeasing matchup for someone like QT. I don't have him at my top 50 wide receivers just because I have my doubts about this game as a whole. If Mahomes doesn't have his mobility, if he did really suffer an ankle injury and he doesn't have mobility, that's going to take away a lot of the appeal to his game, because what he does is he buys time. He sees the field extremely well. His offensive line, he might be without his starting left guard and left tackle for this game. So if Houston sees that and they know that, J.J. Watt's going to get after him. I don't think this game is going to be as high scoring as people think in Kansas City. If there's anybody that kind of has a big game among the Texans wide receivers, I'd say it has to be DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm not like a huge QT guy this week. Again, he's outside my top 50. I understand.
But as a desperation play, if you need to pick up a wide receiver, you can't get Preston Williams, you can't get Dede Westbrook.
Albert Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah, he's coming back from a multi-week injury, which is always obviously worrisome, but he had the whole bye week and he's been in practice. So, I would assume that Albert Wilson's going to play, and Washington's been buried through the slot. So he could kind of take away some of the hype that we've built around Preston Williams and Devontae Parker.
All right, guys, let's go tight end. Top 5, really obvious. Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz, Hooper, Andrews. And then we get after that, and it's like,
set your lineup on fire.
Who in the world do I start? Right? Yeah, you mentioned it last week. Greg Olsen has an incredible matchup against Tampa. He's got 5 yards in the last 2 weeks combined. We got Will Dissly. Do we really want to trust this? I'd say yes. I've got him tight end 6 this week.
You have to. You have to right now.
Jimmy Graham faced Detroit. He's had 0 yards 2 out of 5 weeks. What do we do with him?
Start him.
Yeah, I've got him in my top 10. Yeah.
What are your choices? I'll tell you what. You're starting him or Gerald Everett this week?
Graham.
Right.
Graham. Yeah, I've got Graham 8, Everett 10. I don't like either of them this week. What do you guys think about O.J. Howard against Carolina? Do you still have to start him? Is he droppable?
Hey, he caught his first catch of the season at the Rays game the other day. You see that?
I saw that.
Yeah.
So I had a big outburst on our Sunday recap show about Dan Harris, because
was this after the Bears got destroyed?
Oh my gosh! Oh my God, he just doesn't let it go, does it?
We're not talking about Bears. So, yeah, O.J. Howard, I started, because Dan was like, why would you rank him as a top 10 tight end for the rest of the season? And we had a long conversation, and I basically went into the fact that none of these guys you want to start. We've seen one of these guys actually perform in the NFL before, O.J. Howard's out there for snaps still. He did play, I think he ran more routes than he ever has last week. Things are going to happen for him. Legitimately, I don't want to pick one of these tight ends. I think Rhett Ellison is a guy that I'm going to rank as a top 12 tight end this week. I'm not kidding.
What about Jeremy Sprinkle? Is that not the greatest name? Tell me that doesn't sound like an adult film star. Come on, let's be honest here.
If it's a Jeremy, I guess. But
Jeremy Sprinkles. Oh, wow.
But no, Jared Cook, crap matchup. Delaney Walker is third on his team in snaps. Vance McDonald. Oh, yeah, we're going to trust Vance McDonald. Okay, Mike. Chris Herndon, terrible team. Now has a hamstring injury. Not going to play. TJ Hawkinson died in week 4. Tyler Eifert, we couldn't trust him against Arizona. Gerald Everett has had 2 good games.
I got the guy. You ready? And you're going to laugh. You're going to laugh. Look, it's partially I'm being snarky and a jerk, but the other part is, hey, desperate times call for desperate measures. Ryan Izzo's caught a couple touchdowns. Ryan Izzo's catching some balls. I'm just saying all you got to do is catch a touchdown. They just let go of Ben Watson. Maybe, just maybe, the second-year kid, they feel like, maybe we could just roll with this guy, and maybe there's some opportunity, especially this week against the Giants, who historically are awful against tight ends. Why not Izzo?
too far for me, Joe, but
I say Darren Fells. Darren Fells.
Here we go. We like wagers here. We had the Kiki Cutie Cortland Sutton bet before the season.
I'm taking Jordan Akins. You can take Izzo.
I was going to say, you take Jordan Akins, I'll take Izzo, and let's recap on Sunday night and see what happens.
And Dad has Rhett Ellison.
I do. I'll take Rhett Ellison of that bunch.
This is the worst bet ever. You can mark it down. I cannot wait to see the results of this.
This is what life is like in 2019 when you don't have a top 7 or top 8 tight end. It's ugly, man.
Yeah, so I was doing my rest of the season rankings, and I said, this is how I would redraft the first 6 rounds if I had to. And I had Zach Ertz over someone like Aaron Jones just because tight ends are so important. If you can go out and get yourself a Zach Ertz or George Kittle in trades instead of having that streamer tight end, please go do it, because you were...
Let me tell you something, too, Bobby. Like, I got to say, there's one or maybe 2 or 3 where I think I've got either Ertz or I think I got 2 Kelseys and an Ertz, right? And those teams are kind of middling right now because those guys have been good, but not necessarily all world. And like Mike just said, the cost that it made to get those guys, I think, was so much that you missed out on some other depth, so you had to hit on other things. I think right now, most Ertz, Kelsey, and certainly Kittle teams are probably 2 and 3, maybe 3 and 2, but I don't think there's a lot of 5-0 teams with those necessarily because it sets you back somewhere else. It sets you back in running back. It sets you back at wide receiver. It sets you back somewhere. So really, just overall, like, tight end is just the ruination of fantasy football this year.
You want to see some 5-0 teams with Travis Kelce on them? I'll send you a couple screenshots after the show.
Well, I'm 5-0 in flex. My only 5-0 team is in flex, and I want that belt. I want it. I want it in Sealy's League so bad.
All right, guys, let's go to the quarterback position. Obvious starts: Mahomes, Watson, Wilson, Matt Ryan, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. Tom Brady, I think you can throw in that mix this week.
You think?
You think? Yes.
And then we get to Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers face Detroit, Carson Wentz at Minnesota. If you're choosing between those 3, Prescott, Rodgers, Wentz, I don't think anyone has these 3, but just so we can rank them, what order do you have them in this week, Joe?
I'll go Prescott, Rodgers, Wentz.
Okay, so Rodgers over Goff or Goff over Rodgers?
Rodgers, oh man, see, Detroit I like, man. It's funny because San Fran's played so well, but I still keep waiting for them to meet their maker, and they haven't yet. And Baker was not the maker. I can tell you that right now. He was not the guy.
And this week they're going to Los Angeles for the NFC West.
I'm going to take Goff and all those weapons over Aaron Rodgers, especially if Devontae Adams is still a question mark right now as we're recording this.
I love Goff at home. I'm taking Goff at home over Dak Prescott at the New York Jets.
I would agree.
So, Tags, how do you have these for? Goff, Rodgers, Prescott, Wentz.
In order, it's Rodgers, Prescott. I don't like either of them very much. Like, they're 9 and 10 among my quarterback rankings. 9 and 10, I have Goff at 12, and I have Wentz down at 18.
Ooh, okay. So who do you have at 8 then?
8, I have Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I could see that. His ECR is a lot lower. He's a good call. So would you rather stream, Joe? Tags and I had a fight about this. Would you rather stream this week Kirk Cousins at home against Philly or Gardner Minshew at home against the Saints?
Oh, man. I really, there's a part of me that wants to go with Kirk Cousins getting confidence off that game.
Go with the right part of you, Joe. Say it.
And then going with that. So, and then the other part goes, how can I go against Gardner Minshew?
When he does it every week, even against good defenses.
I know, and it's in his wheelhouse, too. It's at home, too. You know what? I just don't have enough faith in Kirk Cousins, so give me the Fu Manchu.
Let's go, baby. All right, I stole your best friend, Tags. Take it.
Was that the right answer, by the way, Tags?
No, it was not. It was the wrong answer. Kirk Cousins is a better play.
Couldn't you tell by the way that we were fighting for our players?
Yeah, but you know what? You've teased Mike so much about the Bears.
All right, guys. Gardner Minshew and Kirk Cousins are gone. You're desperate at quarterback. Where do you go? Tags, I know you're saying Kyle Allen at Tampa.
Did Baker Mayfield get dropped?
Probably in some. Did you see that stat? Is that true, by the way, that he would have had a higher QBR had he just spiked the ball every time rather than actually play that game?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like a 39.6 QB rating if you just throw the ball on the ground. His expected, like, I looked at that. It was a bad game. Like, he didn't look like the same quarterback. Like, I don't even know what to say about it. Like, it's gotten to the point where the play calling is atrocious, but some of this is on Mayfield. He's starting to see ghosts. He's got happy feet. He's not throwing, like, he's just
confidence.
Yeah, he doesn't look very good right now. He doesn't look like himself. And the one thing that he's had throughout his entire career is accuracy, and he didn't even have that on Monday. It was ugly, but
Well, and it's not even just the O-line, too, because, I mean, the O-line's been terrible, but I think it's 4 of his picks this year with a clean pocket. So you can't hang it all on the line either. Not that the line's helping.
Some of it's on him as well, but the play calling, like getting Odell Beckham to go, like run 3 different breaks in his route to get open 20 yards down the field while Baker Mayfield is like legitimately, he's being pressured within a couple seconds. That offensive line is terrible, but they should be looking into a trade for Trent Williams with the Redskins. That should be happening right now, but we don't know if that'll happen. But I'm not going to overreact because Baker looked better against Baltimore last week, and I know that Baltimore is not a great pass defense anymore either, but let's not pretend that Seattle's secondary is very good either. So if Baker got dropped, I would pick him up. I would actually start Baker this week over Carson Wentz, and I know some people might throw up to hear me say that, but I would.
Well, speaking of Baltimore, I would start Andy Dalton. I think he's the streamer guy of the week. I mean, the fantasy points have been there. I know that the W's aren't, but who cares?
It's crazy, man.
You don't get extra points for W's in fantasy last time I checked, so give me the stats. Tyler Boyd had a good game. Tate's been fine. A little bounce back from Mixon. I don't buy into the Baltimore defense is not the Baltimore defense you're used to. There's no Mosley, there's no Suggs, there's no Ray Lewis, there's no Ed Reed. This is a totally different unit. They have a lot of shortcomings. People need to break that mentality and realize that you can throw on this team. Just take a look at that Cleveland Browns game a couple weeks ago.
And Andy Dalton has 36 plus pass attempts every game. He's got 18 fantasy points in 4 out of 5. I think that's a good call. I would rather go Andy Dalton over Kyle Allen at Tampa, over Josh Rosen face Washington. Tags, which of those 3 would you take? Kyle Allen, Josh Rosen, and Andy Dalton?
Dalton for sure.
I thought you were going to go Rosen, man, because you mentioned him on last show.
I mean, I think Rosen is a fine emergency start if you need to. I also think Case Keenum isn't a bad emergency start either. But I think there's so many quarterbacks. Honestly, once you get outside the top 12 for me, I could make a case for the next 10 guys. Really, I could. Like you made the case for Minshew. I mean, I could understand that.
Minshew's in the first 10 guys, though. That's the issue.
Right.
That's what you're missing. All right, guys, let's go DST. Obvious starts. Patriots face the Giants. Ravens face Cincy. Dallas against the Jets. Chargers face Pittsburgh's third-string quarterback. I'm going to throw Carolina at Jameis Winston in there, too. So, Joe, why don't you give us one other defense special teams that you like this week?
Let's see. Going through this, I'll tell you what, who's going to be surprising? I think Denver is actually going to be surprising. I know they lost Bradley Chubb and all, but Tennessee still has some shortcomings, and they are definitely a team that the quarterback play is still, I think, questionable. And they've had their moments this year, but they are very Jekyll and Hyde. And I think at home, I always feel like Denver is a team that always has to be reckoned with, and it's always a tough place to go in there and play. So give me the Broncos.
Tags, I'm going to go first. I'm taking the Los Angeles Rams at home against Jimmy G. We haven't seen Jimmy G playing in a game script where they're playing from behind. We're going to see him air it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty. He hasn't looked that good. He's been in good game scripts, and he's fine in that. But against this Rams defense, I think he might turn it over a couple times.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad call. I like the Rams defense. They're my top 12.
You going leaders of the NFC North, Packers?
I'm not even talking.
Tags is going.
I am not talking for the rest of the show.
All right, I will just guess what Tags is going to say then. Tags really likes the New York Giants defense this week against the Patriots, and we can move on from there. Is that right, Tags? Still nothing. All right.
Nothing like silence on a podcast.
Tags does not like the New York Giants. I'm going to name a couple others that everyone is fond of. ECR's got the Green Bay Packers, number 6 at home against Detroit. Tennessee at Denver. Washington against Miami. Joe, how do you feel about this one? I don't know if I can do it.
I don't think I can do it either.
They're number 8 in ECR. I mean, I'd rather go Rams at home against the 49ers. Jags against Teddy Bridgewater.
I don't know if you guys saw this. I saw this stat come across today. Somebody put it up there where this is the worst combination of teams facing each other since 2008 in terms of all the measurables. So we haven't seen a game this bad in a decade. And I don't know, man. It's a crapshoot. I understand the reasoning behind it. I get it. It makes sense. I guess if you're desperate and you're looking, there's nothing on the waiver wire. That's like the deepest, we're talking like 16 team league and you got buys and all the other problems and you're picking something off the waiver wire and you're saying a prayer in church. That's fine. I get it.
All right, guys, let's round the show out by going start of the week, sit of the week, stream of the week. And we're going to add something that we did last year, too. We're going to give a bold prediction. I didn't even tell Joe about this before the show, so he's going to be on the spot. He's got some time to think, though. Let's go start of the week. This is someone you wouldn't always feel comfortable starting, but this week you definitely would. Someone we've already talked about. It's just your overall start of the week. Tags, who are you going with?
Dede Westbrook.
All right, that's a great one. Joe, who are you going with?
It's got to be James White. Feel good about the James White. Don't overthink it. I feel like a lot of people are starting to overthink James White. Don't. Stop. Just put them out there.
You guys took the first two that I was going to use, so I'm going to go
No
ahead
way.
and go with... Yeah, I'm not joking either. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Gardner Minshew.
Yay, Fu Manchu. Rookie of the year, baby. Woo!
Sit of the week. Tags, who do you have, man?
Let's go. Can I say Robbie Anderson?
That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, it sounded like you were going to say Carson Wentz, too.
I could say Wentz. That's a good one. I don't want to play Wentz this week. But yeah, Robbie Anderson against the Cowboys, a team that has allowed just 9 pass plays of 40-plus yards over their last 21 games. They just don't allow the big play. And Robbie Anderson, even if you go back to the start of last season, he has 2 games with more than 4 receptions. Not good.
Holy cow.
I'll sit Alshon Jeffrey. I was negative coming into the show, and then after Tagliere just kind of unloaded about all the reasons not to start him, I feel very justified. So sit Alshon Jeffrey if you can.
Can I just say every single tight end?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sit the Washington defense because I think everyone's going to pick them up to stream. I don't know if this is going to go so well for you guys. All right, let's go streamer of the week. Who do you have, Joe?
All right, streamer of the week. Let's go with Tags' boy, Preston Williams, right? Why not? Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, Tags, I think that was your guy, so I'm going to give you a little more time to think. I'm going with Gus Bus. Gus Edwards at home against Cincinnati.
Can I use Kenyan Drake? Is that doable? Or Adrian Peterson?
I don't think you can use Drake. He's owned in most leagues, but that's a really good start. Yeah, you can use Peterson. That's fine.
Peterson was dropped in a lot of
He's
leagues.
owned, but, you know.
Yeah, I told people to hang on to him. I remember after week 4, everybody's like, drop him. I'm like, yeah, I'd probably drop him. I'm like, wait a minute. They played the Dolphins in week 6. Hold on to him for one more week. And I don't know how many leagues he's available in right now, but yeah, that's, I guess. Or Ito Smith, if he's available. I don't know.
All right, let's finish it off. One bold prediction each. Tags, you get to go first. What are you going with?
Oh, all right. That Stephon Diggs makes it right for his owners this week and finishes as a top 15 wide receiver against the Eagles.
I'm going to predict that the Falcons and Cardinals game outscores the game that everybody thinks is going to be the highest scoring, which is the Texans and Chiefs.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, guys, I'm going to go with O.J. Howard finishes as a top 3 tight end. And everybody who's been asking me if they should drop him realizes that was really dumb.
Yeah, I hope that's the case, man. I would love to have another, reliable tight end. Really would.
No, seriously, people are like, hey, should I drop O.J. Howard for Jason Witten? I'm not joking. I've got this question 50 times this year.
No, yeah, it's one of the most common questions I see on my timeline as well.
I can't wait for that Sunday when we get to tally up all the tight end points of the 3 guys we picked. It's going to be great.
By the way, I'm going to recap that at the end of the show. So if you're keeping track at home, I don't know why you would because this is ugly.
I want everybody to play the home game.
Tags has Rhett Ellison at tight end. I've got Jordan Akins. And Joe, I don't even remember who you had.
Larry is H to the Izzo, B to the Izzy. Ryan Izzo. Y'all need tight ends. Y'all got to feel me.
Hey, I'm not going to remember this one. So anyone who's paying attention to this, let us know at Joe Pisapia 17, at Mike Taglier NFL, at Bobby Fantasy Pro who won this bet. And if it's me, I'll retweet it. If not, I'll just ignore it.
I'll stay on it. I'll make it my duty.
All right. And congratulations again to Tags for winning the embarrassing bet story. I'm going to beat you next time. I'm going to tell one of my poop in my pants stories.
Oh, God.
One of.
You win. You win.
One of the many. All right, guys. That's all for today's show. Cortland Sutton, I appreciate you coming on.
Always a pleasure. I just want to do whatever I can to help the team win, and God willing, we keep going forward. But no, I want to thank you guys always for having me. Always great to talk football with you. Hopefully we'll do it again in a couple weeks, but good stuff. Always a good time, guys.
It's our pleasure. Have a good one. All right, and I want to say thanks to the sponsors of today's show, ExpressVPN, where you can protect your online activity today and get 3 months free at expressvpn.com/fantasypros. And also FanDuel, where new users get $20 in site credit if they deposit $20, and you can enter the Fantasy Pros Beat the Experts contest at fanduel.com/tagsandbobby, all lowercase. And don't forget, if you're a new user to FanDuel, take advantage of our offer. We're going to give you 6 months of our Hall of Fame premium package. That's our highest tier, a $65 value. If you deposit $10 as a new user to FanDuel, you can check that out at fantasypros.com/offers. For Joe Pisapia and Mike Tagliere, I'm Bobby Sylvester. Thanks for listening, and enjoy your football.